All right, we are live. I told you guys we're coming right back for reality check. Right back. It's Monday night, and you guys know after we talk a little bit at 8:30, we get right into Ready to Love. And tonight's guest, I'm super excited about because she was one of the women I really could relate to a lot on the show. I think a lot of people have been able to relate to her. She has that spunk and that fire. She's a single mom. She's a go-getter. And y'all know she's fly. She just flies. So please help me welcome our long-awaited guest. It is Miss Alexis Fly.
Oh my goodness. Oh, Crystal, that was like the sweetest introduction. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be talking to you tonight.
I'm excited to have you. We were just talking about the shirt, and I thought, I wanted to remind everybody, doing this once a week, I'm always like, okay, what am I wearing today? Trying to work the natural hair, y'all. Please show me some slack. It's been humid and raining here in Atlanta.
It looks good.
But I was like, you know what? We got to remind everybody that you're blessed. So in case you're watching, this is definitely why I had to pick this shirt up, because I just love that reminder. Sometimes, you're going through something, just remind yourself that you are blessed where you are. If you can start to be grateful for what you have, God will bless you with more. So we got our girl in the building.
Yeah, we were just talking about that because I had the exact same shirt that I wear often. And I literally wear that to remind myself when I'm going through things that, girl, you're blessed. When you're feeling not too happy one day, or, the day just isn't the best, that's like the best shirt to put on. And for this interview, because I just want to say first, Crystal, to everybody that is watching, I want to tell you thank you so much for your support, for your love, even for the bad. If you didn't care for me too much, it's okay too. I appreciate all of it, because this was a journey that you had to really put yourself out there. Everybody is watching, and you don't always make the right decisions, so for those who were able to extend grace and mercy and also relate to what I experienced, I appreciate all of you guys, and I'm blessed. So I just want to say that.
Well, I love it. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, because I think I say this every week. We do recaps on Friday, and then on Mondays we talk to the cast that left. And I think this show is loved so much, and is watched so much, and it causes so much online conversation, because people see themselves in different people on the show, right? If you lived a little bit, you've been around a little bit, you've loved, you've lost, you've had children or whatever, you can relate to figuring out how to find how that baggage that you have, your past, fits into finding love in your future, and the fact that you still, want love, and may have had some, just all that. I think people relate to everybody on the show. And like I mentioned before, I think it was the first or second episode, and I saw you talking to Jason about seeing him when you brought your son to basketball practice.
Yes.
And I told all my girlfriends, like, I know I went through a divorce when my son was 9. And I would have to take him to the barber shop. And I remember he just had a fine ass barber. And I was just like, oh my God. I was checking out the barber, Alexis.
Absolutely.
I could feel that. So tell me, let's talk about, what is it like being a single mom and having a son? You are, you're interacting with men, but you want to make sure that your son keeps the utmost respect, because boys get real territorial about their mom.
Oh, yes, they do. And mine already, he was 5 when I was on the show, and now he turned 6, and he is territorial in a way that it was just kind of like, I asked him before I went on the show, because I wasn't going to explain to a 5-year-old what exactly I'm doing. He doesn't understand that. But I asked him, I said, how would you feel if mommy, had a new boyfriend or new guy, or you had a bonus father one day? And at first, and I think I shared this on the show, he was like, I don't know about that, because people have to understand that it's been me and him for 5 years. His father and I divorced, but he has a great relationship with his father. And that's one thing I'm blessed about, is that I had a ex-husband that is very, very involved in my son's life. But, it's me and him, me, him, and God. Let me say that. And so he was kind of like, nah. And it was funny as he watched the show. And let me tell you, the only reason why he watched it is because my dad would watch it, and he's with my dad. He would get snippets of it. I was too fond on him watching the show, being that young. But he would say to me, am I getting a new stepdad? Is it, I said, that's up to the good Lord. I really don't know. We're going to see. But, mommy's on a journey to see how it'll end. But It's been not the easiest thing to be a single mother. That is not exactly what I prayed for. You know, you all know, I was once a first lady, as to say, and I did it, quote unquote, right. You know, I got married and I had a kid, and I had no idea that I would end up being a single mother. It ended up being my choice and my decision to get out of the marriage for various reasons of the sort. But I can say that my ex-husband has been a wonderful co-parent, but at the same time, you know, it's been a journey of being, you know, by myself for 5 years, and it was just like, okay, it's time for mommy to like have her own boo and have love. And you know, I know that I was created to be a wife. You know, I've been a wife before, not just a friend, not no side chick, not you know, every now and then we hang out and be in situationships. I'm tired of being in situationships. That's not what I desire, and that's not what I was designed for. So I take this leap of faith and see, you know, what would come out of Ready to Love.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you about that experience, but I want to go back to something you said, because that's something else I can relate to. Is sometimes, you know, there's this big stigma of being a single mom and not being married and raising a child. But as you said, there are a lot of women that tried to do it the right way, and you were married, you had children within this marriage. But what I learned, I don't know if my experience can relate to you, but I learned it at this point, it really doesn't matter. I have a baby daddy. Yes, he was my ex-husband, but I'm in the same predicament as a woman that I have 2 kids by one husband or one ex-husband, but there are women that have 2 and 3 kids by different people. We're all in the same boat.
Absolutely.
So you do the best you can, but you can't, just because you try to do the right thing doesn't mean life will reward you with what you thought you were going to get. So how did you deal with that? Like, okay, especially being a first lady.
Yeah.
How did you deal with knowing that I did what I thought was going to equal, you know, this perfect family, and here I am with a baby daddy?
Yeah, with a baby daddy. It's interesting because when I first got my divorce, and before I made the decision to file, I struggled. I sat on it for 2 years, y'all. Separated prior to my divorce, and I wanted to make sure that I had exhausted every possibility of us remaining a family, because I was concerned about my son not having that male presence in his life. But one thing God told me is that I'm the father. You know, I'm his father too. And he sent so many men, just like he sent Coach Hearns, you know, during that time, to be an example of mentorship. But in the beginning, I was really, really concerned as a mother of him not having that. And am I taking that away from him? But all the gaps have been filled in. I have a wonderful village, just like every woman. God always provides, you know. You know, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, just know that you're never going to be by yourself. Help is always available. It's on the way. And that's what I've depended on for 5 years. So when it comes to a man being in my life, he has to believe. He has to be a man of faith, at least for me and my son, because that's what carried me through. There was many nights, man, I'm like, this is hard. I can't do this. You know? I'm tired. Like, I need a mommy break. I'm big on my mommy breaks, honey. I'll be trying to go with my friends and sip my Jesus juice and all that kind of stuff, you know, because we all deserve that break. But it definitely hasn't been an easy road, but it's been absolutely rewarding. And what people don't know that was not shared on the show is that my son is a miracle son. I was told when I was 18 years old that I might not be able to bear children. I had endometriosis. I was diagnosed with it. I had gone through 2 surgeries. I was getting ready to have a 3rd surgery, and I prayed about it, and I heard, don't do it. And end up, like I said, getting married, and my womb was opened, as to say. And so I really, Jet is a priority in my life. And whether a man ever comes in or not, I'm still going to be a mom and do what I have to do. And shout out to all the single mamas, because baby, you can do it. Keep on doing it. You've been doing it. Whether you got a man there or not, you got this, sis.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. I agree with that 100%. And I think that you know, thankfully, because your son is young. Yeah. So I applaud you for being able to get out there, you know, because sometimes some women, it takes a while, because you are trying to balance being a mom and then having you know, your life on the side. And sometimes it's hard to find that balance, because we feel like we have to, you know, give so much to our children. So I love the fact that you are giving everything you have to him, but you also realize mom deserves some loving as well. That's great that you saw that early on, you know, to get used to him, you know.
Yeah. And so I help him get used to me not being around.
Mhm.
So, he'll have time that he'll go visit, his grandparents or, family members or whatever, because it's really important that we, as single mothers and mothers, period, that we make sure we have self-care. And self-care is loving yourself, self-love, and giving time for yourself, because it is a lot when you are a parent who really cares about your kid and you want to make sure that they have the best. You make a lot of different sacrifices. This time I made a sacrifice to go on to Ready to Love, having to not be with him, as to say, for a few weeks, to really focus on this journey. And, I struggle with that a little bit, not being home or being out for hours. I would come home and he's like, Mommy, you're going out again. Stuff like that. But, I did it in hopes that, it would be beneficial, and not that it wasn't, but I did something that I need to do for myself.
Yeah. Well, you took a leap of faith. And I want to ask you, before you got to the show, what was your dating life? What was your dating experience? I always ask people that, because I think that at some point, most people have an example or something that happened that made them say, you know what, I'm willing to try something different.
Yeah, this was definitely different for me, because with Ready to Love, it's the challenge of having to date multiple people at one time. Believe it or not, that's not something that I've done in the past. I've always, set my focus on one person, and I stay liking that person. I don't talk to other people. And my friends used to tell me all the time, girl, you need to have a starting five. You need to not do that to yourself or whatever. Just never done it. And honestly, but beforehand, my dating life was like I say, if I were to be really honest, it's situationships. It would normally be, I'm talking to this guy and I think it's going really great. And then he pops the whole, oh, we're just friends. I'm not interested in being in a relationship. Let me tell you, I'm so tired of hearing that. They tell you that you're great and you have this and that going on, or it was either something they wanted from you, so they come with the flattery and the charm, and then it's like, oh, can you help me do this? And can you help me do that? And it's like, what do you really want me for? Do you want me for me or what I can give you? Because if you want me, you're going to get that regardless. But I've struggled with that a lot because of my career. Right. So I normally have guards up, and I did on the show, and I was always trying to figure out the motive and the heart of a man. Really around me for, and I think you guys saw that a lot, during the show, trying to, see what's really going on in your mind. And you could say, trust issues. Let's just be real, having trust issues.
Yeah.
Beforehand, lots of situationships. And I said, I want to be able to go to an atmosphere where the guys are wanting to do the same thing that I want to do, which is be in a committed relationship. That was my hope of why I was walking into this opportunity with Ready to Love.
Okay. Well, if you guys are just tuning in, we are talking with Alexis Fly from Ready to Love. We have been anticipating this conversation probably since the first or second week. I was like, we're on here, but we've had to wait until it was time. So I appreciate you coming on. And there's so many people that are saying that they enjoyed your honesty, your confidence, the way you exited was beautiful. So you get to the show. Let's go back. You mentioned just dealing with different things. And I think that trust issues come from baggage from our past. And it's like, that's just something that most people, men and women, are dealing with. So you get to the show, and that first mixer, what was your first thought, and who first piqued your attention once you got there and kind of was able to kind of scope everything out?
So here's a secret to the mansion. I was the last woman to come in. So my other cast members had been there for hours. And so I was catching up, and the producers had already told me, hey, you only have a certain amount of minutes to get around here, talk to who you want to talk to, and try to make a match. And even before that happened, they said, look, Alexis, let me tell you, don't come in here, being, fearful or timid, which is not really my personality, as to say, but you're going to have to be talking to multiple men. And we know you don't talk to multiple men, but if you, want to quote unquote win love in this competition, you're going to have to come with it, which is why you hear me say, I'm going to go hard in the paint. That's we say.
Yeah, I was like, you were really, I think, okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because there's two different things happening with Ready to Love. And I think it's the dichotomy of staying on the show and doing what you need to do to get chosen,
Yep.
and then actually finding a real connection.
Absolutely.
And those two things don't always align. So you go in knowing I got to give the cameras what they want so I can stick around. But then you honestly came on genuinely wanting a connection.
Oh,
So how did you find that balance, or did you find that balance?
You know, it was hard because you always had it in the back of your mind, like, I got to talk to everybody and I got to make sure they get to know me, or I'm going to go home. And my thing was, because I took this leap of faith, I couldn't be the first one to go home on the first day. That's all I could straight up. But I think the first person that I talked to when I walked in, I did see AJ on the side, who was actually talking to Amber. So in terms of him being the first one that I kind of shook hands and said hi to, I saw everybody else was already coupled up talking. Deidre was by himself. And so I went over to talk to Diedrich, actually had a great conversation with him that you guys did not see. And then I looked over and voila, there's Coach Hearns. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And I think, you know, for me, it was more of being familiar with Coach Hearns for obvious reasons. And so I was immediately comfortable with him. People are like, well, you know, Coach Hearns wasn't really feeling you, all this kind of stuff. What was crazy was that you don't get to see Coach Hearns having him talking a lot on his end, because we were sitting there for probably 45 minutes and they're like, hey, y'all got to get up and, you know, start mingling and things like that. It was just I was just comfortable with him because I was familiar with him and he had already knew my son. And so it wasn't me necessarily just putting all of my cards on the table. It was just me being able to open up with him instantly. He was actually he was already in a relationship prior when I used to see him.
Okay.
And so that's why we never really talked, but it was kind of cool being able to come on this show, actually talk and realize, hey, we're not really a match, but we are great friends and you will always be the coach to my son.
Yeah.
So I talked to him. Let's see, I talked to KG. Of course, I talked to Troy, my boy Troy. Shout out to we love you, Troy. And I did talk to AJ as well. So I tried to make sure that I had an opportunity to meet all the gentlemen. And then there, as the days go by, you start to see, is this a person I can really connect with, or is this not? So that it was challenging. I had never done that before. I mean, if you think about it, in real life, do you talk to 10 guys at one time, you know, in one day? Not really.
Not everybody. No, not in one day. Not in one day, but I think that there are some women that is their behavior.
Yeah.
And most people encourage women to do that.
Absolutely.
Women that don't do it end up, you know, making bad decisions, unfortunately. Now, I've never been the type of woman that could talk to multiple men. I wish sometime that I had been, but there are some women that juggle it better. And I think, you know, just obviously, I think Kyra's a woman that juggled that better.
Oh,
she was very comfortable.
She was comfortable. She can juggle, and I would take it as she's really a dater. I think for me, I wasn't really a dater. You seeing me date on this show was really like, oh my goodness, like you can tell I haven't really done this too well, you know, not before, because like I was one man focused. When I met a guy, that's who I'm on. So it was challenging. That's the word I have for that, is challenging.
So you mentioned that you saw AJ, and it seemed like one of the first scenes we saw you guys together. It seemed like you were there was a strong physical attraction.
This scene. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let me share with you guys my personality. On the show, you really got to see the firecracker in me, the feisty in me, and that's definitely a part of my personality. That's something I won't deny, but there's other sides, and I think that they kind of knew that feisty and the firecrackers popping would help carry the show, as to say. But I'm also, believe it or not, I'm funny. I like to laugh, and my jokes are what they are. There were a lot of puns edited together on that. And, you know, some people unfortunately took it as, oh, she's really sexual and, you know, she's sexually aggressive and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to lie to you. It was hard. After I saw it and how it was all edited together, you know, I was a bit mortified. And I was just like, oh my gosh, people are going to think that, you know, I'm a garden tool. I promise I'm not, guys. I really promise.
The old school garden tool. No, I don't think people thought you were I don't think they thought you were a hoe at all.
Yeah.
I think that people thought you were very physically attracted to him, and you're very, you don't seem like a shy person at all. So
I'm not. I'm not. I was. And let's be honest. Yes, y'all look at AJ. He's very attractive, very handsome, at least to me. You know, he was, in terms of physical appearance, he's exactly what I like. You know, that's what I call my chocolate drip. You know, chocolate, bald head, beard, love it all. So yeah, off the bat, that's what I was attracted to. And one thing about AJ is he's very, very charming. I called him Charm School on the show. And so he knew how to cater to my emotions as a woman, something that I feel like probably has been a void, you know, in terms of relationships for me. And he met that need. And so it's interesting because people, I think they assumed, based off of what was said in his interview, his confessionals, that he thought that I was aggressive and all that kind of stuff. But the truth be told, me and AJ had a very close relationship, in that I think what I found most difficult is that you guys did not get to see our actual story. A lot of the story was focused on Kyra and AJ, but we went on about 8 or 9 dates. And you got to see too. Yeah. And so, so that's why it's such a strong connection, because Ron and I went on 2 dates, but we talked every day on the phone. So a lot of our relationship was built on the phone, but with me and AJ, it was literally built in person. So that's the difference that you see there.
Yeah, we definitely didn't see that. We saw the relationship with you and Ron that seemed to really be the one. So let's take a break from AJ. But I think the fact that you said that he is your exact type.
Yeah.
I think when you see someone that is like, if you could draw in your head, if God was like, hey, what do you want? This is what I want. And then you see that pop up.
Oh yeah, you think this is it. You know, if you imagine, for any women out there who've actually been told, or just on your own, you know, write your list of, you know, of what you want them to look like, what characteristics you want to have. I'm gonna tell you right now, throw that away. Just go ahead and throw that away. But we've all done that before. And if I were to write it out, he was the one. But
AJ's picture would pop up.
Yeah, exactly. But I think for me, again, we talk about challenges and doing something new. The thing that Nephew Tommy issued for us is to date somebody that you would not normally date, who you feel is the complete opposite. And so I had to be like, you know what? I got to kind of get off the gas with AJ, and I'm going to have to try somebody different to see if this works for me. Because clearly this is the reason why I'm here, because I haven't chosen correctly.
Exactly. So when you were thinking of, let me date someone that is different than what I would normally date, was that how Ron got in the picture, or?
So Ron and I were not on each other's list at all in the beginning. We didn't even, he's actually the only one that I did not speak to during the mixer, like briefly, like hello, but that was about it. We didn't mix at all. And so it wasn't until we went to the brunch, we all ended up exchanging numbers at the end of the brunch. And I don't know if it was that night or the next day, he ended up calling me. And it was funny. I tell this story. I was getting ready to go to sleep. They called me an old lady. It was probably around 9 o'clock. And honey, I can't stay up, child. I've been ready to go sleep. So I'm looking at my phone and I see Ron's name. I'm like, I'm not about to answer this. He's gonna have to call me tomorrow because I'm sleepy. And I said, no, don't do this. Let me go ahead and answer the phone. We ended up talking for 3 hours that night. Surprised me. Yeah. And we talked about everything. We talked about faith. I know a lot of people was wondering, they thought that we talked about faith later on in the game. We didn't. We talked about it early. I wouldn't say in depth, but we did talk about it, you know, kids, all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, you know, I think what intrigued me though, on how he kind of reeled me in, as to say, is that the first thing he told me is that he researched me. You know, he had watched my podcast on my Instagram, you know, had really followed me. We had a common friend that he knew. He asked his friend about me, all that kind of stuff. And so I was flattered by that, you know, initially, until my intuition began to kick in later on. And so, but I did like the idea that he had taken time to find out who I was. And that was a big deal to me.
Yeah, no, we give Ron thanks for that. Even though I'm probably going to take them away just because of how he acted like an ass when he left. But I like that. And it shows that he actually put a lot of thought into it. And we didn't see that.
Yes.
I got to ask you about the religious part, because one of the things that I wondered when I was watching that is he expressed that he had a negative experience. And I think that, you know, you being a former first lady, you know that there are a lot of people out there that have church hurt. We talked about
I've even had church hurt. No, I get that.
So I wondered if, and I think everybody's experience is unique to them.
Yeah.
So I wondered if you were more put off by the fact that he hadn't reconciled that, because I kind of think that's like a personal thing.
Yeah.
Or if it was more than we saw, because the conversation you had with Tommy, it seemed like you were really like, I can't deal with somebody that has this. And I'm like, but if he had church hurt and he's working through that, is that something you could be empathetic to? So where did you see that conversation, to the point where it led you to really be that worked up in that conversation at Tommy's house?
It was a major conflict for me because, I am, quote unquote, a wog, as they say, or a woman of God. But let me be clear. I'm very balanced. I'm not a holy roller. Don't consider to be a holy roller. One of the first things I said when I came on the show was like, I don't want no pastor. I don't want no minister, no musicians. I don't want any of that. If I wanted that, I could go down to the local church. Been there, done that. Yeah. So it definitely wasn't that I was looking for a minister, but at the same time, I think my concern is a question that I asked, and I asked, him, who leads you, right? Mm-hmm. And when your response is, I do, that means you're not understanding what I'm asking you, and that's not the response I'm necessarily looking for, right? Yeah. I think that I could have totally gotten over the fact that you may not attend church because of church hurt. Since COVID, I had not actually been in church, because of some, not necessarily church hurt, but because of COVID, and just not, kind of disconnecting a little bit and going into an actual building. I could have worked with that. I think for me, it was more so during the time that he came over to meet my ex. It was kind of just this distastefulness. Yeah. I'm not knowing if you really are open to it, or if you really want to try this out again. It was kind of like, nah, I'm going to go do this. I'm not going to pray with you. I'm not going to blah, 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 blah. And one thing I did ask AJ, I said, AJ, would you pray with me? Would you allow me to pray with you? And would you pray together? And his response immediately was like, heck yeah. Like, why are you asking me that? And that's all I needed to hear. Right. Because I need to know that you're willing to cover my family, because here's the thing, when it comes down to getting things done, yeah, faith without works is dead. No, go pray and go do what you need to do. But some things we ain't in control of, what I'm saying? And I need to know that when you know that you are out of control, you're going to be able to cover our situation. That was the thing that I was struggling with. And, no, we don't have to go into church 5 times a day. 5 times a week. I don't even go to church that much. But where we were spiritually, it was just unevenly yoked. And he even agreed with that later on down the line. And so I had to make a very tough decision on if I felt like, and this is going to be tough what I'm going to say, but raise a man in the faith. I'm just a little bit past that, if that makes any sense.
No, that does make sense. I want, did he share with you what caused what his experience was and where that church hurt came from?
So I don't remember the exact details, but I know that he said to me it had something to do with money and finances with the church, with money. And I've heard that before. I get it that, that the pastors just want money. They want,
We all know about that. Everybody on this live knows.
Heard that. And you know what? I'm not going to say that it's not true for some folks.
For some folks, yeah.
And so I think it was one of those, incidents. And then I think what I, was also concerned about when we were on the golf course is that I spent a lot of time with Ron trying to prove that when he was in the atmosphere of my friends, that he's not going to be judged. Like, you good, and nobody's going to be judging you because you like to do this or that. Heck, I go to the lounges. Y'all saw me smoking hookah. Like, I'm just saying, and I probably can get judged by that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm a balanced woman. I like to enjoy life. Here's the thing. I'm a spiritual being, okay, living a spiritual being living a human existence.
Right.
And I'm not going to walk the line perfectly. Sometimes I don't even want to. Sometimes you just
that's real. That's real. The Christianity back up in a minute. Let me just do that. Yeah. I think a lot of people wondered that, and I think that opportunity for him to maybe share with you why, because he did seem like someone that had been hurt. Anytime somebody is that angry, they've had hurt. One of the young ladies said she's dated someone like that. I had that experience too, where a guy is just so angry. It really has nothing to do with your situation. It has more to do with what he's gone through.
Absolutely. And I totally got over that. I think, with what you guys also didn't see, for me, it was just some red flags that I saw in terms of the way he spoke to me or the way he made me feel that I was like, I'm not willing to tolerate this. You're a great person and a great individual, but I don't think you're the person for me. And it was hard for me to accept that because we had created a bond. That was a surprising one because, again, we were complete opposites. He chose me as his number one. I chose him as my number one. When we talk about the number one thing, I know everybody's like, oh, Alexis always talking about number one. Yes.
That was one of the next questions. Like, how because, and I get it because obviously it seemed like, I'm just going to be honest with you. It seemed like that you were really out of your element, right? And wanted a lot of reassurance. And I think, I get it. And I think any woman in that situation would, but the dating show is set up for everybody to, and it seemed like you weren't the only one. There was a lot of women that were not.
They told me a little bit more with it, but all of us, asked that question. Sometimes we were asked to ask the question on the date. And they showed me a lot asking because we were always supposed to know where we stood at that time. For instance, with AJ and I, as you see at the end, there was a lot of back and forth with him, and it was just really a difficult decision for him to make. So the minute you would think, okay, I'm good, we straight. The next minute, people aren't sure, and that can be an emotional roller coaster. Imagine in real life, one moment somebody's telling you they are after you, they're pursuing you, and then the next day it's something different. So the emotions that you guys saw were very real, just like were very real. I wanted to know where I stood because if you heard me say before, I was always looking for the motive of the man's heart. Are you really here to love, or are you here playing games with me? Or are you just trying to get to the end? What are we really doing here? Because if you're not really here because you're interested in me, then it can help me make some decisions, And so that's where I was with it. Has it changed? What are we doing here? And I also want to let Ron know, you're not the only one I'm interested in. I tried to make sure that I was very genuine and open with where I stood, but I also know where you stood. Because sometimes guys will just tell you what you want to hear just to keep you around.
Most times, well, I want to say guys. I was going to say most times. I'm going to take that back. Take that back, guys. It's not just guys. I think it's whoever is playing the game, right? And I think that when people are playing the game, they hold their cards close. I think we saw women that did the same thing and didn't want to share, but you were 100% honest. And I think when you're on a show like that, that doesn't always work to your best interest. Before we get all the way off Ron, because I want to put a button in that. You mentioned when we got to talk about his exit, but you mentioned there, and you just said it again, that there were things that there was a feeling that you had by the way he would talk to you. And when you guys were at the very last scene, you said, that's what I've been feeling. What can you speak a little bit more and kind of share with us what exactly were you picking up on in those conversations beforehand? Because again, opportunity for everybody to live and learn. If you hear certain things, what did that sound like that you were able to say, that's what it is right there when he was disrespectful in that last scene?
There have been conversations that I had that I felt like were kind of jabs, or like I said on the show, it was condescending. And, I struggled with accepting that because I don't think it's something that I need to accept. And so that elimination was a perfect example of what you guys didn't necessarily see that I feel like I kept experiencing. We went on a Valentine's date off the show, and probably I think it was the day before I actually had that kiss on tape with AJ. And I decided at that moment that I was not going to share that moment with AJ with him yet in terms of Ron, because I wanted to see, who am I really supposed to be with here? Just because AJ gave me a kiss and all of a sudden now he's like, I'm pursuing you. Are you really? Does that mean I'm going to leave my relationship that I built with Ron just because you have quote unquote made me feel secure in the final moment, And so I needed to make a decision, and I didn't want to tell him. And then he decides, oh, well, now I'm just going to let it go because you didn't kiss another man, that kind of thing. And I know people on the show shared, their moments of kissing and all that kind of stuff. My thing was, in reality, If I'm going on a date with a man yesterday and I go with a date on a date on a man with the next day, I'm not sharing with that man that I just kissed a man, on yesterday. I'm not gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not.
Right. I don't think that's a good idea either. I
think
did see that Liz did it, and I thought, okay, that's good for her. But I just thought that on a dating show,
right,
that's not, I'm not obligated to tell you everything that happens with someone else while I'm trying to figure it out. Because I also think that immediately on both sides, when people hear, oh, she did this, it immediately makes them turn. It's just not, it doesn't work. But that does lead me to
the Amber situation.
Because
yeah.
The Amber situation, Alexis.
Woo, yeah.
You went in on her.
Yeah, they said I went in on her. I used the Judas word. It's funny. I've never called anybody a Judas in my whole entire life. But let me tell you,
where did all that passion come from?
I'm about to explain that to you, sis, where that was coming from. Okay, so obviously y'all saw the elimination that Ron decided to tell me about this, for whatever reason he decided to do that. And it caught me off guard because I had just been with Amber, you know what I'm saying? We had developed a very close friendship, and she had made it very clear to me that, hey, Alexis, I know you and Ron, are each other's number ones. I'm over here with KG. I'm good, so it was never even a thought that they would have anything going on. I just, it was like, okay, I guess we got her blessing, as to say, because we're all, and when I say that, meaning we're all dating. And so she had just basically said, hey, Alexis, I'm out. Right. So to hear him say that, I was just like, hold on, my girl ain't telling me that. Why do I have to find out from him? Winter storm came, so we were off for a week. A lot of people are like, why didn't you call her and talk to her? Here's the thing, guys. You all wouldn't have seen what happened if I would have told her. The bottom line is producers want you to say anything, right? Because then you don't have nothing to see. So I had to hold that a week until we actually went into the ranch. I hadn't heard from AJ. At that point, I was considering self-elimination. So I had a lot of emotions.
Okay.
I pulled up to the ranch.
That's what was going on. That's what
I was just like, how am I going to unload this? Like, I have so many feelings. This is ridiculous. And so when we finally, now, mind you guys, we've been filming for 15 to 17 hours. Y'all can see I had bags under my eyes, and that seemed like we are tired. We playing truth or dare, but it's like 12 or 1 in the morning. So Vernisha asked both Liz and I, what happened on those eliminations. And so when we opened that can of worms, it kind of opened my everything of what I've been waiting to say all day that I haven't been able to say. And here's the thing, y'all. It wasn't even about the kisses. It's a dating show. For me, I felt betrayed in that, sis, I was just with you. You my girl. I cried with you. I prayed with you on about this decision on what I can make. What's your opinion about it? And we shared that moment. And so for her not to even just let me know that, hey, well, we talked and I just went out with him and we kissed. I just would rather hear that from her, and then I would have been good with it. Right. I hurt because I understand this is not a show to make friends, but at the end of the day, we made friends.
So I just want to make sure so you guys were not friends. You did not know her prior.
No, I didn't know her prior. No, we bonded quickly. Yeah, we just connected, just like you had freaking frat, and some other relationships or friendships that developed on the show. We just happened to be girlfriends that, we just got close. And so I just feel like, man, why you didn't tell me? And let me tell y'all something about Amber. Amber is also, a believer and a woman of faith. So the Judas thing kind of came because the first thought that came in my mind, just like, this is how I think, the way my brain operates is, okay, Judas is an example of betrayal. And then we talking about kisses because Judas
greeted Jesus with a kiss.
Right. This what came to my mind. And next thing I know, I didn't call my friend Judas, but
so you're acknowledging that might have been you might have put 10 on the 2.
10 on the 2, know, and it really was just because I had a lot of emotions running in me at the time. And I'm not making excuses for it. What I am grateful for is that she's the type of person that allowed me to express myself. And once
that beautifully.
She did. She took it like a real G. other girls talking about, oh, I'm ready to fight. You know what I'm saying? But because she respects me as a friend that I am to her, and vice versa, it was easy. Not saying it was easy for her, but she was able to receive it. And then once she explained to me, Alexis, this is what happened. This is not, even though she didn't necessarily have to, we were good. And all it did was make our bond even stronger. So I appreciate you, Amber, for that.
Did you know that he was trying to throw a jab? He was trying to hurt you with that. So were you aware that he was trying to manipulate you when he did that?
So it's funny because at the moment I didn't, but when I'm watching it on the screen, I'm like, oh, I see what you were doing there. Yeah. I can see it in the moment. It was just kind of like, literally, I was thinking like, what? Like all I kept thinking about, is this even true? And where is this coming from? You know, I didn't think of anything because see, when Ron came in, he already kind of came in on energy of 10 because he didn't know what was getting ready to happen. Am I in the bubble? Am I getting ready to eliminate? Yeah. And here's the thing. If you guys notice, it's me having to eliminate him. The person that you're actually with versus it usually being somebody else. And I'm very uncomfortable. I didn't want to have to do it, but I had to do it, you know, because it's showing that sometimes we have to make decisions that are best for ourselves, even if it hurts. My number one concern is that I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I didn't want to make him feel rejected. I didn't want to do any of that. So when you see my tears and my struggle, those were real tears. And it was a real struggle because I didn't come here to hurt anyone. But I came here to make sure that I could find the right person that works for me. And sometimes you have to make those very difficult decisions.
Yeah. I want to ask you about, because that episode, both David and Ron left without dignity, in my opinion. Yeah. And I actually had a chance to interview Tommy, and I asked him about that, and he acknowledged he was disappointed in that. What did you think? I don't know if Liz talked to you about that, or you guys. I know you guys talked as a group about it, but what did you think about his energy and the way he acted when he was eliminated as well?
David, you turn to David. Mm-hmm. You know, when I saw it, you know, I was hurt by the situation really for both of them. Both of them are very amazing people. And it's difficult, y'all. Let me tell you, to share your journey in front of millions of people. When you sign up, you know, people are like, you ought to know what you're signing up for, you know, but you don't really know. Yeah. And people are very, very cruel on the internet. I personally experienced it. And it can really mess with you. You know what I'm saying? So seeing that unfold, seeing him really go through what I think was, you know, a painful moment. He's trying to get something out. She's trying to get something out. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's a lesson on how to control our emotions. Yeah. David is is a man, I think, that's, you know, in touch with his emotions, and he let his emotions get the best of him. And it's just unfortunate. But at the same time, you know, I think that was just a moment where, you know what, it's best for me to go. And I think that was just the best decision for that circumstance. I will say that my girl Liz, I think she handled it very well. I call her Queen Liz, honey. You know, because I can't say that I would have handled it in that manner. Yeah. But she did. And, you know, I pray for David, though, you know, especially after that, because it was a hard scene to look at. Yeah, it was. It was difficult. But then you have to think about, do people go through this in real life? I mean, think about when you're married and y'all be getting into it. And even when you're not married, and how, you know, emotional it can get. Let's be real, guys. Think about a situation that you've been in with your spouse or with your boyfriend or girlfriend, and how heated that moment. This is just an example on TV of how heated a moment can get. You know what I'm saying? And yeah. Well, especially when you're not really, I don't want to say healthy, but I will say that, like, when you're not healthy, you're sensitive to everything, and it feels like rejection. And it seemed like, from my perspective, that he did not want to feel rejected, you know? And so I just wondered what you thought about that. I have to ask you about another scene that you know, I had a conversation with the relationship expert, and really kind of stood out to me was AJ talking to Kyra about the woman that you want versus the woman that you need. How did you feel when you saw that scene, and how did you interpret that in relation to you guys' relationship? So I'm trying to remember the scene you're talking about. I remember him talking to me on the balcony about me being safe versus exciting. And it's interesting because the words he used, which y'all also did not see beforehand at the ranch that night, was that I was again safe and she was risky. So the wording changed when he got to me. You know, it's funny in that moment, my friends were like, girl, you missed that. Like I said it. I didn't hear it until I watched it.
Yeah.
I think if I would have caught what he was saying in that moment, it probably would have been a wrap for me, to be
right.
But what we had talked about in the regards of safety, AJ and I always talked about him wanting a wife, or me questioning him wanting a wife that was a sanctuary. And so you hear me say to Vernisha, I can't understand why him and Kyra were, always fighting, because you hear her talk about how they were always doing this. That's what we're referring to. And I wasn't saying that to be a hater or anything like that, but just like when you talk to your girlfriend about somebody you're dating, that's kind of how I was doing. You'd be like, girl, I don't understand why X, Y, and Z. That was a moment for me. And my thing is, we never argue. That was another thing I liked about him. We could have conversation, whether I agreed with something or didn't agree with something, or if I kind of came in, with my feistiness, with guns blazing, he could easily bring it down. And that's one of the things I absolutely loved about my relationship with AJ. And so, for me, when he said safety in that moment, I was thinking about the conversation we had about me being a sanctuary, a place of peace. To me, when you are looking for a wife, when you're coming out from the world and you've already been through all the drama that has, and when you come into your household, you should be coming to a place of safety, peace, sanctuary. That was our discussion. I think on TV it looked like something else, but I also think, and this is just my opinion with AJ, really his decision fell on the fact that if I end up choosing Alexis, I gotta grow, excuse my French, the hell up. Meaning I have to become a bonus father immediately. That comes with a lot of things. I got to get this right. I got to get that right. I think with Kyra, it would have been a little bit more freer. It's not as many responsibilities. There's not too many changes. That's just my opinion and my thought. It would have caused him to have to grow up a little bit faster, in terms of
and you think he just wasn't ready for that?
I think he's ready for that. I think AJ is still ready to enjoy himself. And you know what? That is okay. I think I just would have wanted him to just straight up tell me that, and again, like I said, you guys did not really get to see our journey in terms of how we connected. But y'all also have to understand is I don't see what his conversations are with Kyra.
Right.
Yeah, or with anybody else. I see, like we see the episodes when y'all see them. Right. So I'm looking like, oh, so that's what you said, and oh, that's how that went.
Yeah.
No, I can only go on what my experience was with AJ. That's all I knew until, of course, we watched it. And then you can see this is why people think that or see it that way.
Right. Yeah. So watching it now.
Yeah.
What do you think about the connection that you have with AJ? Do you think, because I'll say this, I don't know what Kyra did, but it seemed like she impressed everybody at some point. Because I feel like with Jason, I think Jason had the same experience as AJ. Jason is with Liz and it's a very safe, good person. And then with Kyra, it's like, I got butterflies going on here. Yeah. So it felt like, damn, the same thing is happening on both sides. What is your thoughts watching it and watching his interaction with her and how he's behaving with her as opposed to how he's behaving with you? Do you think that there's a lot that you may have missed out on, or do you think you pretty much had him, figured out?
I wouldn't say I had him figured out. I could definitely see the connection that he had with Kyra. I think for me, what I was seeing was, hey, I dated this woman before, and I just really want to clean up my name. I want to work hard, who I really am. And so because his energy was so focused on fixing and correcting that, it affected our connection. To be honest, as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh wow, you spent a lot. Now I see where your confusion was. Now I see that when we were talking or when I walked into a room, it switched up or not. Now I can see. I mean, for me as a woman, it was a reminder that, words don't mean that much. Action does.
That is a good point. That's the reality check for tonight, ladies and men, because I think men get caught up in that too. Action speaks louder than words all the time.
All the time.
Was there anybody that you wished you had given a chance to, or that you thought, man, I should have been open to getting to know that person a little bit more?
No, I think the two that I had the connection with, were my best, matches for me at the time. What some people don't know, David and I actually, we told producers off the bat, hey, there's no connection here, because he actually knew my ex-husband.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because he's in the church, church circuit.
Right.
And so his family, we knew families and things like that. So I was like, no, that's a no-go. Mm-hmm. The rest of the guys, they were just friends, still good friends of mine. It just, it was definitely not a connection. So it was either going to be these two guys that were possible matches for me, or it was going to be a no-go. Yeah.
What about, what did you learn about yourself, I guess, in this process? They always say that everything is a learning experience.
Yeah.
And you take something out of that. So what did you learn about Alexis during this process?
So let me first say this, and I said this actually in another interview with the Houston Chronicle. A lot of times you hear people say, oh, I'm just going to take the L. But when you take the L, don't take it as a loss, take it as a lesson. Mm-hmm. A lot of lessons learned, not just going through it with the cameras and it not yet being, aired where I could see it. But as I'm watching it, what I took from it was what I said when I left and I closed out was, girl, number one, trust your intuition. Number two, love yourself so much more, Alexis, because when I made the statement that you need to see yourself as God sees you, I was talking about your worth.
Yeah.
Your value, because a lot of other people can see it around you. But once I see myself the way that God sees me, and I see that value, then when certain, jokers, as you say, come up, around me and I don't like what I see, or I see the red flags, I don't ignore them. I say, hey, I'm not settling for that. Hey, no, that's not good. And not keep giving that thing that's not good for me chance after chance after chance. If you see this shirt right here, it's first love yourself. This is now Team Fly. This is now what Fly means. When I first came on the show, Fly, you guys know, you heard that because that came from, fashion and me being into all of that and wardrobe and all that kind of stuff. Going on this journey, it turned to something else because it reminded me the importance of self-love and not to settle for just anything. And sometimes at the end of the day, you have to choose yourself. That's just the bottom line. And so that's probably the major lesson that I've learned. Here's the thing, though. Let me tell you, let's be really honest, because as women, we'll say that, we've learned this lesson, and then sometimes we go back or we turn back and then end up turning to a pillar of salt. You may see in the coming up reunion that I may have turned back, but I'll tell you this. Hear what I say. I may have turned back, but I'm not looking back.
We'll keep that. We'll definitely thank you for the heads up.
Your little tea.
Thank you for the heads up. We appreciate that. That means you kept it real. So we have you come back after the reunion. We'll definitely be able to talk about that. But I appreciate that. And I think I want to have you tell people how they can get a shirt, because a lot of people are saying they appreciate that. I love the fact that you're also being very transparent.
Oh, yeah.
When you go on, when you start the show, I think a lot of times, especially as career or, positive, especially when it comes to the church, because, the church is definitely got its own culture.
Yep.
Because you can say that you're confident and you can talk that talk and you got a slick tongue, that doesn't necessarily equate to real self-love or confidence. And sometimes the women that are the most braggadocious really don't have that, really are just as insecure, unsure of themselves as the women that do not. And I think that love yourself first is a great way of sharing that you can be flying, you can be confident, but it has to come from something else than just saying, I wear these clothes, I got this car, I do that. That doesn't,
Let me say something about transparency. I always tell women that transparency saves. So I'm pretty much an open book. I'm gonna give you my truth, and I think I did that on the show. Some people liked it, some people didn't like it. They received it. When we talk about confidence, I'm big on affirming myself, because here's the thing: growing up, I didn't always think that I was the prettiest thing walking down the street, or I had some form of insecurities. Even now, as a 36-year-old woman, yes, I have insecurities. Every woman has insecurities, whether it's something you don't like, on your body, or something that you think you don't do well, or you don't do that great, when it comes to trying to do something in your career. We all have it. But I think it's important to look in the mirror and affirm yourself, because if you're not affirming yourself and loving yourself, you can't depend on anybody else to do it. Because what happens is, when I don't affirm myself and have confidence in myself, and then somebody comes by and say, oh, girl, you ugly, or girl, you look like a fly, or all these things that you even receive on the internet right now, it will break you.
That's true.
So I have to remind myself that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and that I'm a masterpiece by God. Not to be braggadocious, but to remind myself that when the enemy tries to come in and tell me that I'm something that I'm not, I don't have to believe that, and that it breaks me apart, and then I have to keep trying to rebuild myself up. So the way that I show my confidence is in my, is in my clothing, is in the way that I walk into a room and all that kind of stuff. Because what do they teach you when you're getting ready to give somebody a handshake for the first time? You can't have a wimpy handshake. Nobody's going to take you seriously. So when you walk into that room, you be a light. You walk in confidence. Hell, I don't care. You may not really be confident. You may not think you can do it. You know what I'm saying? But when you do it and do more and more, then you become it, right?
Exactly.
So, you hear me affirming myself, because I'm building up my security. Because here's another thing: I don't need a man to secure me and make me feel good about myself, or have to depend on him. You see what I'm saying? And so that's kind of where you see that feistiness or that confidence, come in. Because all the time you hear people say, oh, that's Alexis, she's so little, she's so this, she's so that, but she's a little firecracker, And the thing is, just own who you are. Own who you are, but at the same time, yes, be humble. When you say, what did you learn from this show? It has brought me into a place of true humility. Let me tell you, humility more than I have ever experienced in my life. And I'm glad to be there. Because that forces me to depend on my God, never to get so much on my high horse, where I don't think I can get knocked off or fall off, you know what I'm saying? And so definitely, God has graced me and brought me to a place of humility. I'm going to tell you that this show has brought me to, I've literally ran back to God, to be quite honest. Not that I was away from him, but it has made me desire to be close to him, and to really be a woman who goes back to who I was, which was a woman who empowered other women. And that's where I want to stay. And that's where I want to do. Yeah.
I get that. I think that, well, first of all, I can say from doing, being a publicist for years, entertainment publicist for years, and preparing people to talk to media like this, more people, out of 100 people, the people that are, say you have 10 people that have something negative to say, those 10 negative people are so much louder than 90 people that actually supported you, because the people that support are not trolls, and they're not going to get online and say stuff. So I would just say that, just know, and I'm sure you already do, but I'm just, speaking from my experience, always know that for any negativity out there, I mean, anyone that is on top, if you're talking about, Rihanna or Beyonce in this world, there's so many negative things said about them, but that's because they are on top. And so I remember my mentor told me, she was like, Crystal, an eagle flies higher, and they are a target. If you're not a target, you're probably not doing anything. So,
you speaking of words?
Yeah, just know that. So I'm sure, and I always would tell clients, don't read the comments, because you can't you can't define yourself that way. And the people that are supporting you, you're not hearing that, you're not hearing that. So, you keep doing what you're doing, and just know that there are a lot of women out there that did connect with you, that do feel that felt like you were a version of themselves on the show. And so that's, an honor for you to have that ability to represent them, for them to learn through your example. And I appreciate you being honest about, where you felt like you could grow, because everybody you never get to a point where you are done.
You're always growing and elevating and learning and gaining wisdom. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So I appreciate you coming on. This was a great conversation. I want to ask you your not speaking on what actually is going to happen, because we know that you got more tea than we got, right?
Yes.
We know that you got more tea than we got. But outside of what is going on, if you had to say who you really were rooting for, a couple or even two that you really, really believed in and really felt like they were serious and you really wanted them to make it, who would that be?
Can I tell you two, or I only can tell you?
No, tell us as many as you got.
Okay, so one couple that I'm definitely rooting for would be Vernisha and Joel.
Yeah.
Who's not rooting for them?
Yeah, everybody's rooting for them. They are that couple this season.
They are that couple this season. You know, Vernisha, I applaud her because she knew exactly who she wanted when she came in. She got through her process pretty quickly, and she says, "This is who I'm sticking with," and she did that, and it worked for her favor.
Yeah,
it worked for her. That's who she felt like her match was, and vice versa. So definitely rooting for them. My second choice would be Jason and Liz. So see, y'all, even though I talked to Jason for a hot 5 seconds. Definitely Liz. She deserves all the love in the world. She's waited a very long time for her king to arrive. And so I'm hoping that once we get to the reunion, that'll be a couple that you see. And so also, Amber and KG. KG was actually a friend of mine. It's a few episodes that y'all didn't get to see. Actually, here's some more tea for y'all. KG and I actually went on about 3 or 4 dates.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, we did not know that.
Yeah, but we quickly knew that we were just friends. And so the other dates really were about, pushing him towards Amber. Also trying to, date around as well. But hey, really, really hone in on that. And
hold on now. I got to ask you a question, Alexis. Yeah. So when you went on the dates with KG, did you tell Amber all about that and kind of let her know like where he was at? Okay.
Oh yeah, she absolutely knew. I'm going to tell you the first date that KG and I went on, I was like, oh yeah, we not a match. She knew that too. But here's the thing is because we've also have been friends in the industry for a long time. Gotcha. So we never dated even then. So it was just kind of like, nah, you still my homie, So yeah, I wasn't a threat for Amber. Yeah. KG, but I knew that their connection was strong, you know. So I rooted, and continue to root for them. So yeah, y'all just gotta watch this reunion, honey.
Oh, we are watching, and we definitely want you to come back because I feel like we definitely need to have you come back. I think that I will tell you my thoughts.
Yeah, please do.
I think I like Vernisha and Joel. I'm a little concerned about Joel. I think he's very slick. Now, I think the both of them, I think Joel's a little slippery, but I think that it worked for Vernisha. She's very confident.
Yes, she is.
She knew who she wanted, but that doesn't always work if the guy, he faltered a little bit with him getting upset, but they just happened to really, really, really both. I felt like they had a real strong physical connection at first. Physical chemistry, and then their personalities. He seems very family driven, so I do like them together. But I'm gonna go on the record as saying Joel's a little slick. But
you think he's slick?
I think he's slick. But I think that Vernisha can handle slick.
Oh yeah, that girl got it, honey. That's one of my other close friends. Vernisha got this, baby. Let me tell you, one thing is for sure.
Yeah,
Vernisha is a catch, honey.
I agree. I think some people, I feel like Joel may not, but I feel like if anybody could handle him, and I don't think he's slick in a bad way. I just think he's very charming. He's
charming.
Very and you got to kind of, be on your toes. You got to be on your toes with those kind of. Now, I like Liz and Jason. I think Liz is at a different place in her life than Jason.
Yeah. So what do you about that? What do you think in terms of that they're in different places? Can you explain that? Look, now I'm interviewing you. Can you?
I just feel like I know this is going to sound bad, but I just feel like Liz is more mature. I feel like she's more mature. I feel like she's a lot more serious. I know that she has on this entire season, there was a lot of like Christian, I'm very in the church. I mean, she's very much in the church. David was very much in the church. You talked a lot about church. So I think that's a big part of who she is.
Yeah.
And I think that she's a lot more conservative than Jason. I think Jason is, I just feel like I agree, Brian. I feel like she's mature for him.
I won't speak for Liz, but I'll speak for her a little bit. I think she'll be okay with that because we are also we're really close. Liz, yes, she's, I call her first lady, I call her queen, but she's very balanced. I think one of her things was like, oh, everybody think I'm just a church girl and I'm a church lady. And she likes to have fun just like I like to have fun. I was quite the opposite. People like, she was a first lady. She don't act like a first lady. Probably the most non-traditional first lady you ever met in your life. Because my thing is, I wanted to be able to be me. And I used to, I'm going to say this and then I know you got to go. But when I had our church, I used to tell people when they came in here, hey, look, do not, put me on a pedestal because I may piss you off one day. I may say something you don't like. You may feel like I ain't speak to you today and all that kind of stuff. You came here for Jesus. You did not come here for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to, help guide you and to lead you, but I'm human too. And I make mistakes. And I think that's another reason why people fall away from the church, especially if, the pastor gets caught up in something or a scandal or whatever. And they be like, oh, I can't believe he did that. You know what I'm saying? And it's because we put human beings on pedestals and you should be going there, because you have your own relationship with God, as to say.
Yeah.
So, but she loved the Lord and he heard her cry. And
I agree with everything you said. I agree 100%. Yeah. I think that, and I'm sure she likes to have fun. Oh, yeah. I'm not saying that she didn't seem fun. I just think, like I said, from looking at their personalities, I just feel like, and sometimes that can work. Sometimes opposites can.
Yeah, because it's like a yin to the.
It's a yin and a yang. I do think what I did love about watching her is you can tell that she does have a pure heart, and she really wants love. Like she just, head out the rose, and she's like, oh, it's like, oh my God, she's so cute. She's a genuine person, and I hope, because I do believe she's a genuine person, I hope that works out for her. But we know it'll work out, and it'll work out even if it's with Jason or not.
Absolutely.
I think the same thing for you. I think that you are going to find an amazing man is going to find you, and you will find that, at the time that it's right. And you will, there's so much, it's so funny because I think that most women would say when that does happen, especially if you've been single for a while, when a man is really into you, it feels so much different. You don't have to ask all these questions. It's not difficult. It's only difficult when he's just not that into you. So I
find myself having to ask, why am I asking all these questions?
No questions
need to be asked. I'm with you.
We talk about you know. I think that's why I would never have went on Ready to Love, but that's because I already know Crystal would do horribly. Crystal would have been gone the first day.
Yeah, no, you would have done it.
But I also know, you learn just living life that like, oh my God, I'm making this more complicated than it needs to be. It's not about, waiting on him. It's not about trying to figure him out.
Yep.
If he wants you, he will let you know, and you wouldn't even be able to ask a question because it'd be so obvious. So my hope is that is coming soon for you. I know it is. And it's just a matter of when it's God's timing, he's gonna do that. And hopefully you'll come back and share your testimony.
Absolutely. I would definitely love to come back and talk to you. When you talk about, the choosing you thing, I think when I first came on, I would say a lot. They didn't show it, but I would say a lot, it's he that finds a wife, finds a good thing. So, my goal in mind was, okay, the guy's going to choose me because technically that's the correct order. So you would hear me trying to figure that out. Are you choosing me or you're not choosing me? Because I just don't want to be here wasting my time, and not saying because I did not get chosen that my time was wasted. If anything, the lessons that I needed on this journey were learned. And I can definitely leave and say, you know what, I won't be doing that again. Watching myself, and it's okay. So you live and you learn, and we good.
And that's all you can do. That's all. But I think it's a great experience for women that are in, because women are all out here, all of us going through this, and men too. I think it's a great way to learn. I think a lot of the men that were great options might not have had the confidence or the slickness to do well on the show, but that doesn't make them a bad person. So it's a learning experience for everybody. Before I let you go, let people know where they can get that Fly t-shirt and where they can keep up with you.
Okay, guys. So you can follow me on Instagram at the Alexis_Fly, at the Alexis_Fly. I should be having these shirts available to you by the end of the week, and you can get it on my website at thealexisfly.com. Again, it's thealexisfly.com. But yeah, I want everybody who's a single woman, right? Yeah. They came, as to say. I think Tristan came.
Absolutely. And sometimes, married too. Any women, period. Everybody needs to, because you don't want to get in a relationship and then stop focusing on yourself and focus so much on him that you lose yourself. So I think
girl, then that's the topic for now. When I come back,
we don't talk about that. I'm down. I'm down, because I'm like, people get so confused. It's like, just regardless if you have a man in your life or not, you got to love yourself and you got to put yourself first. And you got to understand the signs when you start to slip. You know what I mean? So we're going to talk about it. I definitely want you to come back. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and having a great conversation. People have been chiming in and saying, positive things in the comments, and you're very much appreciated. So we wish you much success. We will definitely be setting up a time for you to come back after the reunion.
I'm looking forward to it, sis. Thank you so much, Crystal. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. Again, I really appreciate you. I have so much gratitude for you. And of course, for helping us to be the #1 show on Friday nights on honey, because y'all were tuning in for this season 4. So we thank you. And I really pray and hope that, for those who were able to relate to me, that you got what you needed and the tools that you needed, in terms of your future relationships. So yeah, y'all make sure y'all keep flying, honey. Fly. First, love yourself.
First, love yourself. All right. You have a good one. Thanks, Alexis.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye. All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out. Great interview. I really enjoyed talking to her. She's cleared up a lot of stuff. I'm definitely, y'all get that little tea that she said that she may look back. That suggests to me that AJ is going to come back, or that he and Kyra did not end the way things would play out. So we definitely going to have her come back, but at least that gives us some tea, a little bit of tea for the next episode. You guys know to tune in right here on Friday night. On Friday night, we're going to do the recap one more time, and we'll be able to take what Alexis said and put it against what happens on Friday night. And we know that this Friday, the couples are going to be going to actually meet their parents and talk with family. So that should be interesting. So you guys tune in right here. Meet me right here, rolling out, or on YouTube, 10 o'clock after Ready to Love. If you haven't subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. Please subscribe so you can get alerts and you'll know when these conversations are going down. I appreciate you all for hanging out with me as always on a Monday night. And I will see you guys on Friday. All right. Have a good one. Have a blessed week.